Welcome back to the lab. We are here for a reaction video. Somebody sent me something, wanted to get my thoughts on it. I don't know. I see that we're going to be making fun of some King James only people, so you know I'm in. Let's give this a shot.
Are you breaking up with me?
Thou hast verily spake.
I don't understand. Like, I literally don't understand the words that you're saying.
Thy love is better than wine, and yet...
Trying to play me with the ESV.
The ESV?
It does not only KJV. Trying to play me with the CSB.
That's a good translation.
Methinks not only KJV. Trying to play a the ASB. I does not need a KJB. I'm only KJV.
Listen, man, if he does this whole rap in the King James English, I am going to personally mail this man a Grammy.
4th readeth KJV, or thwarteth all plans to lay with me. I'm only KJV.
But we have the exact same theology.
I'm only KJV.
That was slightly inappropriate.
But you just started reading the King James like a week ago.
I'm only KJV. Low time for my next chick to edit. She was not my text is receptus. Thou art fair, hast of size and pleasant, but methinks thou dost much protested.
Okay, baby. I have a solution. Why don't we just read the new King James Version?
No!
Thy hair's a flock of goats, yet go thy way. Meseems thou shouldest go thy way. Go thy way.
Oh my goodness.
Thy hair's a flock of goats, yet go thy way. Meseems thou shouldest go thy way.
Okay, fine. But you still think I'm saved though, right?
Methinks not only KJV.
I'm
Oh,
a KJV, homie.
I think you're in a cult.
I'm only KJV. I'm only KJV.
You know, one time I was a kid. I was maybe late middle school, early high school. So I was in the car with my dad and he was listening to talk radio. And I remember it was Rush Limbaugh back in the day. He was talking about the Charlie Hebdo thing where a bunch of people got slaughtered for drawing a picture of Muhammad and the Muslims got offended and stuff. And he made this comment that always stuck with me. It's a terrible thing when a religion can't take a joke. And he's totally right. When we're absolutely humorless about stuff, it's just super sad. So we got to be able to take pokes at each other. And this one landed. I say good on you, bro. There is a weird culture around KJV onlyism, and I think they really put the point on it when she was like, dude, you've only been reading the King James for like a week, and he's already wearing Shakespearean shirts. Thy hair's a flock of goats, yet go thy way. You're pretty, but leave. I mean, there's this thing that happens where you get caught up in kind of the majesty of the verbiage and the language, especially I think in the Psalms, and it's very attractive. And so it can start to make sense when people are like, this is the inspired version, or this is the authorized version, or whatever. Look, I love the King James. You're not going to hear me saying anything bad about the King James. I love it. I read it when I go to do devotions or Bible lessons at retirement centers or whatever. I'll take the King James because that's what people know. And it is a darn good translation. Not to mention that we stand on its shoulders. We owe our English translations to the legacy that the King James is the kind of the pinnacle of. So we love it. And yet when people just take it entirely too seriously, we have to make fun of them a little bit because some of it gets kind of out of hand. We got a family here in the church. I really appreciate the way they handle it. They're like, look, I prefer the King James. I think it's the best translation. When I don't know if something is accurate that you're reading in church, I go and check it against the King James. Well, okay, we can discuss that, I guess, from like a nerdy perspective, and we can swap all of our data points and whatever. But they're also not what we would call the KJB. I think that got mentioned in here somewhere. Like, I'm not moving off of this. If you don't read the King James, you're not saved. I had a guy one time, I called him up because he was a YouTuber that was leading some of our people astray. So I got his number and I called him up and I'm like, hey man, we should do a podcast episode. And he was like, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, okay, why? And part of his answer was, you're not King James only. And I'm like, right. So you'll only talk to people you agree with? And he's like, yeah, well, yeah, you're reading demonic translations of the Bible. You're a member of a cult. And I'm like, wow, it's going to be hard to get off the ground in this conversation. So we never did the podcast episode because he wouldn't agree to it, but we did have that phone conversation. He said, you got me now, so let's talk. And I'm like, well, I guess this is the best I'm going to do. And it was a total dumpster fire of a conversation. We were just absolutely talking past each other because he couldn't graduate from this level of thinking of, if you don't use English from 1611, you're not quoting the Bible. Bible wasn't written, whatever. Anyway, I know some KJV only guy is going to hear what I started to just say and is going to say, I got 47 points to the contrary, and light him up. Anyway, If you want to read a good book on this, I would recommend, I know it might seem a little played out to you guys that have been through this subject before, but honestly, I think it's the best thing out there. James White's book on the King James only controversy, he lays it out really well and does so with a high degree of reverence for the King James. You're not going to go there and find him mocking it or anything like that. We love us some KJV. At the same time, we do need to be honest about correct translations and incorrect translations, how language shifts over time, the amount of manuscript evidence that was available to them and stuff like that. And sometimes with people with the Peter Rucker types, you really can't reason with them. They're not talking. They're not listening, pounding pulpits and screaming and putting ETH on the end of all of their words. You got to kind of shake the dust off of your feet. But for people who actually love the King James and want to read God's word in that translation, don't mess with them, man. Let them do it. And let them read it out loud to you, because you'll benefit from it. It's one of the greatest literary accomplishments and poetic accomplishments ever achieved in the English language. But when somebody just won't get off their thing about the King James, then we should mock them and make hilarious music videos about them. So I say to the segment of Christian thought that has room for this kind of thing, excel still more. I love it. I'm a fan.